welcome back to my channel. I'm Patty. I go by Pattymac Makes everywhere online. In today's video, I'm going to share a really fun bag making project with you. And you can sort of see it like right over my shoulder. It's right there. We'll take a closer look at that in just a minute. The first thing I want to say is that today's project was made possible from Missouri Star Quilt Company. And this is because I recently applied to be a part of their National Quilting Month promotion. And that project was one that I submitted. And they said, yeah, we like the idea. So what do you want to make it? And I requested a little bit of yardage and a charm pack. So this video is directly thanks to Missouri Star. They sent me what I requested to make it, and it just kind of gave me the push that I needed to move forward and produce an idea that I've had in my head for a long time. I get ideas all the time. I have notebooks full of ideas, and it's always so rewarding to actually get to make those ideas, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I also want to tell you that being a member of their partner program, they have given me a very special link that I'm sharing with you in the description below. If you use that link and go over to their website and make a purchase of $50 or more in the month of March 2024, you will get an automatic 20% off your total purchase price. And a lot of times you'll even get free shipping. Now I don't know what the threshold is for the free shipping, but it's not that much. So it's a very good likelihood that you'll be able to have free shipping and 20% off your total purchase. I really appreciate when you make those purchases using my link, and I can't thank you enough. So when we talk about quilting, what does everybody think of? Everybody thinks of just these gigantic bed-sized projects and like king-size quilts. This is what people have in their mind, but I like to share smaller projects with you. I like to do like wall quilts, and I'll link to this project for you also below. I like to do wall quilts. I like to do placemats. I like to do all kinds of little things. And one of my favorite projects is to make small quilted bags. Recently, I did a poll in my community section, and I asked people how they felt about bags. And I got a pretty good response on that. And several people said, hey, I love them. I already make them. Let's see what you got. And about half of the people said, I really want to do it, but I'm intimidated. And some people don't care at all. And that's fine. You know, you can't make something that is going to appeal to 100% of people all the time. So this video today is going to be for people who already make bags and enjoy it. You're going to love this project because it looks really fancy and it's really easy. And if you're in the other camp of, I really want to do this, but I'm super intimidated, you're also going to love it. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to recommend, if you have not made a little bag, or maybe you've made a bag but you haven't done anything with a zipper installation, because this is a zipper project, I'm going to recommend, it's kind of an older project and video that I've done. It's still a good one. It's a little zipper pouch. I'm going to suggest that you do this first. And this is what it looks like. So there's your zip, and it's lined. Okay. And it's just got a little rounded bottom. So I'm going to recommend that you go over, and what I'll do is I'm going to link you to my blog post. And within the blog post, I have embedded the video. Okay, so the blog post has everything in one place, and they'll give you step-by-step instructions on how to put the zipper in. And it's very easy. Don't be scared. Here she is. Oh my God, isn't she beautiful? Oh my goodness, look at this. I love it so much. This one, okay, I got a little fancy and I used a bag pull. And you can buy those in different places. I got mine at Joann on sale, of course. Only shop Joann on sale. And then here's the inside. And you can see I put a little pocket. So this is similar to the first one, but it has the addition of an internal pocket. It has straps, and we box the corners. And all that means is when you box the corners, it just means that you're cutting into the fabric and then sewing it again so that you have a flat bottom. And then your bag can sit up. And it also gives you like space, and then it creates this really pretty shape where it's small at the bottom and it goes up at the top. It's beautiful. I will tell you that this is all made using fabric from Ruby Star, which is my favorite design house. And this is the Verbena collection. And I made this with half of a charm pack and then a little bit of yardage. So it's half of a charm pack to do the outer shell. And then this is a 2.5 inch strip of fabric to make the straps. And then inside, you're going to want to have about a half of a yard. And then the pocket is just 2 more charm squares, 5 inch squares. And then I will also have a blog post that goes along with this project so that you can have written instructions. Personally, I like to have the video, and then I also like to have the step-by-step written instructions. That helps me to really make just about anything. So I go to great lengths and details to provide you with both when I give you projects, because I want you to be successful and I want you to enjoy what you're making. And you're going to love this one. So our first step is to lay out what we call the outer shell of your bag. And that is the quilted outer panel that everyone's going to see when you carry your bag around. And it's kind of like the mismatched patchwork quilt that I shared with you recently, in that none of your seams are going to line up, which does make this a little easier, but it also makes, when you lay it out, look a little odd. So what you're going to do is you're going to have 3 5 inch squares on either side, and then you're going to have 4 in the center. And what'll wind up happening is that you will trim the top and bottom pieces here so that it's even. And whatever fabric you put in this spot, I call that the spotlight fabric, because whatever's there, it's just about in the finished bag going to look sort of dead center, and your eye is going to go right to it. So whatever you put here, make sure it's something just really spectacular. I'll just put it that way. So the way that I constructed this was to do it basically in columns. Now you're kind of looking at it on the side because of the way the camera's lined up, but this is your left side and this is your right side. And so you're just going to piece those together, and then you're going to piece these. So you're going to have that long center panel, and then you're going to have the left and the right. And essentially, when you go to put them together, the way I line it up is I find about center of this and line it there, and then these are going to be like that. And same thing here. And they don't have to be perfect. We're not trying to line anything up, so you could even be off a little bit. You don't want to be off too much, because you have to sort of stay on task with it, because we are going to trim, and you want to make sure you have enough room to make the correct size for your bag. At the end of the day, it's all going to get trimmed to 13.5 inches. So we're going to size it a little large and then trim it down, and that way we know we have everything square and as we want it. So this is what the bag is going to look like, And if I look at it and I think, oh, maybe I don't like this or that about it, now is the time to make your change. So maybe it feels like that's just too much yellow. So if I want to make a change, I could make a change. Once you have this together, I'm going to move this out of the way. You're going to get all that sewn, you're going to trim it, and then you're going to apply a fusible batting and quilt it however you like. I just did a really simple lattice design. I find that just works with everything. And go ahead and quilt it the way you like it. You can use regular batting if you want. I just find for bags, placemats, things like that, I like the fusible because it has a little more structure. And, you know, that's what I use. But you can use whatever you like. And whatever batting you use, just follow the instructions on the package of how to get it to adhere. But anyway, that's 1/2 of your outer lining. And then we'll complete the other piece, and that will be our full outer shell. Let me show you the lining. The lining is pretty easy. So the lining, you're just cutting your fabric, and you know, go for something really bright and kind of surprising for your inside of your bag, because you know, you want that like fun pop of color or design when you open the bag. So I went with this sunny yellow, and I did add a pocket. This is optional, but I like a pocket in my bags. And this is just 2 charm squares, and I just joined them, and they're joined right here. And I hemmed my top first, so you can see it's open. And then I pressed into place around the edges, and then clipped them down, and then I pinned this onto my fabric, and then you sew around here. You don't want to sew here because you'll sew your pocket closed, but all around. Now what I'm going to do before I call it a day on this pocket is I'm going to find my center seam here, and I'm going to go back to the machine and just stitch that down. And then what that's going to do is give me 2 pockets. Because what I find is that if your pocket is too big, it just winds up gapping a whole lot. It'll just gape. So I'm going to go with 2 smaller pockets. And I went ahead and lined mine. You could use a regular interfacing if you like. I just went ahead and did fusible again. It's what I had on hand. But interfacing would work well. And just, you know, something of a contrasting color. And you can see that when the bag goes together, it'll be about so far from the top. So I'll give you the measurement in the written instructions. And this, you can see, is it's kind of oversized. Again, I like to oversize a little bit and then trim it back. Then I know I have what I need. So anyway, this is going to be our outer, and this is going to be our inside. And when we come back, I'll show you the straps. All right, let's talk about the straps. And I did not do like really long straps because I don't think you need it with this bag. So the way I did it was to cut 1 3-inch width of fabric strip. I trimmed off the selvages, and at the halfway point is how long my fabric is. So that should be right about 20, let's see how long this one is. So this is right at about 21 inches. And this is what you're going to wind up with. And let me see if I can bring it in where you can see it. It's just a nice edge stitch. The way you're going to get this is you're going to take your strip to the ironing board, and you're first going to fold it in half. And then you're going to press it all the way, and then that's going to give you a nice midpoint. Okay? And then when you have that, you're going to take each side and you're going to bring it in. Just like that. Both sides. And then you're going to fold it back over at that midline and press it into place. Obviously, it's going to look better than this. Okay. And then you're going to do an edge stitch on the side here. Essentially, what you're doing is you're encasing the raw edges. Okay? All right, let me show you how to put the strap onto your bag. So same type of thing, we're going to encase that raw edge. So you're just going to fold it, and then you're going to fold it again, and you just want to make sure everything is really lined up. And let me just press that into place. We're at the point now where we have all of our parts made and we're ready to put this bag together. So the first thing I'm going to do is to take our strap, and you can see that I have pinned it in place. I have lined it up to this seam here on both sides so that it's even, and then I measured down 2.5 inches, and so those are now even, and I measured 2.5 from the top. And what I'm going to do is take it over to the sewing machine. I'm going to use dark thread, and I'm going to sew a box, and then I'm going to sew an X inside of the box, and that will secure the strap to the outer shell. And I want to do it before we add the lining, because that way the stitching that we're going to do for this part will not show up on the lining. You don't want to open your bag up and then see the back side of your where you've attached your strap. Once that is taken care of, you can fold your straps down and install your zipper. And I do my zipper the same way every time that I do them. And you are going to have your outer shell right sides up. You're going to take your zipper and you're going to lay it wrong side down. And it's easier when this is sewn, but anyway. And you're going to clip and pin carefully. And you can see that my zipper is a little large. That's because this is all I had in storage, so this is what I'm using. I still like a zipper a little bit long, because what I wind up doing is sewing over it and then cutting off the excess. It's the easiest zipper install, and I think it looks nice, and that's how I'm doing it. So your outer shell is right sides up. Your zipper, you're going to take it at the top edge, line it up, wrong side down, and then you're going to take your lining, right sides together with your shell, and just line all of that up along that top edge. Pin and secure, and sew it over, and then when you turn it, it'll be just like this. And then once it's turned, I will do like an edge stitch or a top stitch across here, just to secure the outer and inner shells so that they'll lay flat around the zipper. I do have a video. If you are not comfortable with installing a zipper, I have a video where I get pretty far into detail on that, and I'm going to refer you to that. I have a video and a blog post. I would also say that if you have not done a zipper installation, go over and check out that other little zipper project. I would say make a couple of those first, get comfortable with putting the zipper in, and then come back to this project. Okay, I'm going to break from here. I'm going to attach my straps. I'm going to put the zip in, and then we'll come back and see how that looks. And yeah, then we'll be ready to box the corners and call this beautiful, beautiful project done. I did want to pop back in and just give you a tip. So the straps are secured, and I'm putting the zipper on. And what I want to say is that zippers are fiddly, and they do move around. And what you're going to find as you're doing your bag project is things are going to get a little bit stretched out. It's just how it is. When you put the lining, it's just going to migrate. Anyway, what I do to mitigate some of that is I double pin. It's excessive, but it's what I do. So the first thing I'm going to do is to attach the zipper to, oh, and I did it wrong. I'm glad I caught that. It should be right sides down with the zipper. It's a little bit, you know, you're kind of doing some things that feel off when you put the zipper in, which is why I encourage you to look at that other video. But anyway. I know you can use clips, but even clips can slip around, especially because you have so many layers here. So what I like to do is just to use the pins, because I know if I pin, it's not going to move. And it will stay attached. And I will go all the way to that end. Because, you know, as you run it through the machine, that wants to tend to move. Okay, and now what we're going to do is to take our pocket. We're going to take the side with the pocket. Make sure that you have the pocket side up, right side's facing, and then you're going to line up. You want to have your edges as lined up as closely as possible. And then up here along the top edge. And I'm going to pin it again. And it's going to be a little slow going through the machine, but you know, that's all right, because I want my zipper to attach properly. I want my pieces to look nice, and I don't want to like make a mistake and have to rip everything out, because trust me, when you have to seam rip from the zipper, it's not pleasant. I've done it many a time. Okay, so I'm just going to go all the way down, very slow sewing. I will use a zipper foot, and we'll sew a seam here, and then when it gets opened and turned around, you can see I'll top stitch across the top just to hold everything in place, and it looks really nice when you do that. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Okay, we're back, and I've installed the zipper. You can see it's here, so it works. Make sure you can slide it easily. And what I wound up doing was I pinned my straps down so they would stay out of the way while I was putting the zipper in. And so you can see, here's the outside, and then here's the inside. And if you fold your project down, there's the start of your bag. Okay, so now let me show you the top stitch. And I did it at 3 millimeters, and I usually like my quilting stitches at 3 millimeters. I think it looks nice. And you're just securing both of the panels to the zipper, and it just makes it so that when you are using the zip, everything is secured. So let's just talk about a couple of things. What you're going to notice is that the zipper is, you know, way too big. And as I explained, it's what I had in stock. I liked the color that went with this. There was one that I preferred in color. It wasn't long enough. So I just used what I had, and it's installed. And now we're going to do our last big step, which is to box our corners. So we'll have to remove those pins. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put the linings facing and the outer shell. So the outer shell and the inner shell facing. And you want to have everything flat and nice. This is a place where you can use some clips. So I'm just going to kind of hold some things in place. Because I want my edges to line up. We're going to set up and cut, so we want things to be lined up well. What I do is for my zipper, well, let me tell you this before you go getting crazy on this part, you're going to want to open your zipper up. You don't want to forget this part. If you forget this part, you're going to have to take all your sewing out. So make sure your zipper's open. About that much. Now, it matters how you pinch down the zipper, and I like to have it so that my zipper is folded towards the outer shell. So my teeth are up and my zipper is folded, or the fabric part of the zipper is folded towards the outer shell. And you can see this one's the same way. So just kind of clip that in place. And then we want to line up our lower. And you know, it's going to be a little bit off. I notice that my lining is always off a bit. And you have so many layers that you're running through the machine. And what winds up happening is it migrates, and you know, it's just going to happen. It's not, the zipper foot is not a walking foot, and so you're going to have your layers moving through unevenly. Okay. So this is kind of off here. You'll find this a lot as you're making bags, that things are going to be a little bit what I call cattywampus. So what I would do is all of this is going to get stitched off, or excuse me, trimmed away. So when we sew, I would sew with this side up, and I would use this inner edge as the edge for your seam allowance. And then when you trim, you'll just trim it evenly, because you're going to have to cut off those zipper tails. Okay, so this is kind of a big box in the corner. It's a large bag, so it can handle it. And it's a two-step thing. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw the square. And I'm going with a 2.5 inch square. Just going to draw it on. This is the disappearing ink pen that I talk with you about pretty frequently. I like these for embroidery, but they work great for all kinds of stuff. And so all 4 of the corners you're going to want a box. So draw your squares. And again, I'm going to line it up here. You've got that overage there. That's just part of where the fabric migrates. Nobody will tell you about that, but it's real. It does happen. Okay, so I'm going to get my scissors and we're going to cut these out. So you're just going to cut your corner. This is kind of a scary thing because you've done all this work. You just about have it together, and then you're cutting pieces of fabric away. But this is how we get that nice flat bottom. Okay, and then you can save those squares. I'm saving now 2.5 inch squares for some other scrappy project. Okay, oh, this is the scariest part, especially when you cut that beautiful shell that you've spent all that time and effort quilting. And then if you cut yarn pieces, you know, you cut everything. So, okay, there we go. Now, we've removed the edges. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sew all the way around. And what I typically do is I will start on the outer shell, and then I'll sew all the way down, okay? And on this part of the lining, you're going to leave an opening. So I'm just going to mark it about that much. Just, you know, get your hand in there. And so you're going to back stitch, stitch up to the clip, back stitch and go back, and then come over, same thing. Back stitch here, get to the end, back stitch. And then come all the way up, all the way across. With this polyester zipper, you can sew right over it. You do want to make sure that you're using an all-purpose foot. And then this is our outer shell, so we're going to sew all the way down, and then we're going to sew all the way across. Okay, so it's a little bit of stopping and starting, but it's not bad. And I just sew right off the edge, and don't worry about back stitching or whatever, because this is going to be encased in the box, which will be another seam. So let me go get everything sewn and ready to go, and I'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to box. All right, we're back and we are in the home stretch. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just kind of even up that edge and trim off that zipper. So I'm just going to line my 1/4 inch line on my ruler up to the seam that I stitched. Come on through, trim it off. And then we'll do the other side. There you go. Now you're all nice and lined up. Now let me show you how we're going to box these corners. So we cut those little squares, and what you're going to do, where's threads? Hold on. That's why I like the thread snips. They are so good for getting rid of those spare threads. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to reach in, and you're going to pull it straight across. Okay, and then you're just going to line everything up. And let's go ahead and pin that. Now you're going to line up your seams, and just like we always do in quilting, we want to nest the seams. So we're going to turn one way, one the other, just like that, and clip, and then we'll pin this other side. And then it's going to come across, and you're going to just sew along that line. Do this one, pull across, line it up, get those seams lined up, nest the seam allowance, and pin. Okay, and then you're just sewing the straight line right across. And you could do a 1/4 inch. I mean, we are a quilting type of show, so typically everything we do is a 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you want to do a little more, you can do that too. Then it's a little more secure, but anyway, that's all it is. You're just cutting the notches and bringing everything up together. We'll do one on the lining side, which of course that's a little bit easier because it's just that small thickness of fabrics. And you definitely want to box, if you're going to box the outside, you want to box the inside at the same cut, because it'll lay nicer inside of your bag. You want the inside of your bag to be nice and neat too. Okay. Now if we're going to go to the extra expense of putting a nice fabric inside, then we certainly want to have it finished nicely as well. Okay, I'll do the other one off camera. I'm going to go ahead and just sew the straight line. I'll come back, I'll show it to you, and then we get to turn the bag. All right, I'm back, and I just want you to see the sewn corners. So yeah, you're just sewing right across there, and I did sew all of this at a 2mm stitch difference. What am I saying? I did sew all of this with a 2mm stitch length. Let's see if you can see that. So it's just straight across. It was bulky here, so what I did was I just like took some of the bulk out where those seams came together with the pinking shears. And same thing here, just trimmed off. Okay, and what we're going to do now is we're going to reach in here. Reach into that hole in our lining and just very carefully work our hand in there. And find our way through with the zip. And what I always do is go to the opposite corner and start pulling that one through first. It's always so exciting to see your work finally get turned out. This one you might get a little turned around because it's got straps to deal with. But here we go. And it looks terrible when you first turn it out. I mean, you're going to turn your project out and you're going to be like, what is this? You're going to be like, that is awful. Well, you're not done. You still got to do a couple of more things. Now is when we do our finishing work. And we're going to take this little guy, turn it this way, our clover point turner, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully use the sharp edge to poke out all of the corners, and then I'm going to use this part of the tool to just open up along these seams. So you're going to go back into the same opening with the tool, and you can actually go ahead and open your zip all the way. Alright, so I'm going to take that little pointy edge and I'm just very carefully just poking out the corners. You want to be careful doing this because otherwise you can poke a hole in your sewing. And then you got to tuck it all back in and sew it all over again. So save yourself some steps. I locate it with my finger, and then I just very, very carefully work it out using that tool. I don't know if you can even see what I'm doing. Okay, and then I'm going to just run it along the seam here and open that up. The same over here. And then for your zippers, so your zipper's kind of tucked in to the sewing. Some people don't like the look of that, but it doesn't bother me personally. I think it looks pretty good. And then before we get to the last step, I just like to run that tool along that bottom seam to really open that up. Okay? Whew, almost done. Okay, now, and then you'll want to open your corners in your lining. Okay, now we want to close the opening. So we're just going to fold in, and you can kind of see that seam allowance. Just going to fold it, and I'm going to run back over to the sewing machine, and what I'm going to do is to just sew that shut, and then I'm going to tuck it in, and then we're going to press. So I think what I'll do is I'll tuck it in, and then I'll give it a really good press, and then I'll meet you back here and we'll take a look at the finished bag. Okay, we're back, and the bag is finished, and oh gosh, it's so beautiful. Here's how it looks from one side, and then here's your other side. Isn't that gorgeous? I added a little one of these specialty zipper pulls. They just dress up the look of your bags so much, and you can see, you just pull it open, and there's my little pocket. I mean, it's good for like a little cash if you want to carry that, lip gloss, anything like that. And then there's your little bag handles. It is just beautiful. Here's the bottom. And I will tell you, one secret to these bags is pressing. It's very important that you use a very hot steam iron to just press everything into place. You want to make sure that you open the bag and you're pressing all of the lining down so that it lays nice and flat. You want to hold everything open on the sides, and that's where that sleeve board comes in, so you can press all of these seams, and I use the tailor's ham to get to the bottom, and then what I do is I hold it, and then I just press a little like an edge, and then that helps it to sit up, and then you have just this absolutely gorgeous finished bag. I hope you enjoyed today's project and today's video, and I really hope that you are inspired to give this project a try. It has a few concepts that you might not be familiar with, and what I say is what I always say to people, and that is just give it a try. Don't be scared. Just practice, work at it. Things that look really difficult are often not as hard as you think. And if you practice a few times, you will get the hang of it. As I recommended in the beginning, if you're uncomfortable or unsure about zippers, try making that little zipper pouch first. It's much easier, and if you can master making the zipper pouch, you will be so much better prepared to jump in and make this gorgeous tote bag. That's today's video. I sure appreciate you watching and supporting the channel and for being here. And as I always say to you, until next we meet, happy sewing and happy quilting, everybody.